Austra, welcome to Across the Pond, a conversation with David and Howard. Welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be on. I look forward to having a conversation with you.
Excellent. So I have a first question. It's something that you mentioned to me a little while ago, insofar as that. Can you tell me why you've stopped coaching at this time and you're concentrating on podcasting?
It's a good question. So for me, I think coaching, I don't see myself ever stopping to do that. It's just now I have become a professional friend, um, or, or
Right.
supporting people in my life. But the main reason why I stopped it, there's several reasons. One of them was that right now at this phase of my life, I want to focus more on my growth. And it takes energy away from me when I serve others, at least on like kind of more individual basis. And but at the same time, I'm super passionate about helping people, supporting people, and kind of passing along lessons that I have learned, which is one of the like podcast is one of the ways how I can do that. And it also gives me a chance to practice new skill set because I know that I'm good when it comes to one-on-one. I have done a couple of challenges, one to many as well, and that was pretty fun experience. And but talking to one to many when it's kind of you don't have direct response. It's initially I'm just talking to camera, then it goes out, and then I get the response. And there's many things that go into even like researching topics that I would want to talk about and things that I would want to share. But also I'm very curious and I love to learn, which is where the conversations with guests come in. So I learn a lot, I build new connections, and it fulfills my curiosity itch. And and at the same time, I can continue fulfilling that sense, kind of that goal of helping people, supporting people, because I get on people that are really good at what they're doing. And through asking them really insightful questions, I can get the best information out of them that people can actually go and apply to their lives, which is really all that I'm about. So I would say it felt kind of natural. And the last thing that comes in mind is that I started to see this pattern when I would do more like a lot of networking, that there's a lot of what I would call wannabe experts or people that pretend to be experts, and then there's real experts. And with real experts, a lot of them they didn't grow up with technology or they're not as familiar with it. But at the same time, they're the most qualified to actually be out there and add value and teach literally decades of their experiences. All the content is already inside of them. They know
Yeah,
their
yeah.
field inside
Right,
out,
right.
and that's where I started to see that there's an opportunity to help them reach more people, and through helping more people with the message they reach or the message they share or expertise they share, I'm also winning because there's more impact out there. So that kind of felt aligned to step into that. So that's like a long answer to your question about
Yeah,
coaching
no,
to
no.
No,
I
that's
podcasting.
mean,
good. That's good.
one of the things I find is that meeting such diverse people, such diverse coaches, there's a lot of learning opportunities, in how people are. And I run a men's group, mental health and networking, and I have guest speakers come along. And back in November, I had a coach, Nathaniel Dunn, and he was doing it on grief because he'd recently lost his sister to suicide. He had lost his mum because of that. Um, but it was incredibly interesting to see how his behavior changed when he started coaching. Um, and that was a real shift, and the impact that he then had, on some of the other people in the group. I mean, three guys, and we're talking big guys here. Three of them ended up, in tears. So being able to have an impact on people like that, I think is pretty profound. And I thanked him afterwards, and he sort of said, "Well," he said, "No, it wasn't me." He said, "It was you." He said, "Look, you've created a safe place here for people to be able to, be that open." So that was, again, gratitude from him. Um, so, David, sorry, I'm taking the floor here.
Now, get off the floor, Howard, so to speak. Yeah, I was gonna spin back to something you said back in the beginning. No, Austra. And you said you're in a growth phase right now. I'd love to hear more about, what that means to you.
Oof. I feel like I have been in growth phase my whole life. I think there's
No, no, we
layers to
all are.
it.
So,
I think there's layers to it because initially the place that I would have my growth come from was kind of the feeling of not enough or trying to fix myself, which I think how most people get into psychology. And I even went as far as getting bachelor's in sports psychology. And So a lot of it was initially me looking for answers, just trying to understand myself or kind of certain patterns that I would see about myself. And I was very aware really early on. I have found like my journalings and things that I would do when I was like 10, 12 years old. And Right now, I would say it's more so coming from a place of that awareness that there is a huge potential, and also awareness that it takes space and presence for me to actually pursue that growth or expand kind of what I'm capable of, or learn more about myself, do more even like healing work, or just really connect with myself more deeply. And and I did notice that there was like what pattern that I had when I was doing more coaching, which is partly why before I even took another time when I took some break from it, because I started to cut myself out of the kind of the growth equation. Because what I initially would happen is I would learn something, then I apply it, and then I kind of deliver it to the client. But
mhm.
then at some point I started to cut myself out of it. And I kind of started to resent the whole process because I stopped working on myself and I kind of neglected myself in that process. And and now I'm in a place where I have plenty of resources or people that I'm connected with that I can learn from and I want to utilize it. But at the same time, I'm not necessarily in a place where I want to completely shut off and just focus on myself. I still believe in contributing and supporting and helping. And that's one of the reasons why I am continuing with the podcast and the content. And whenever I see I can add any value, like I will jump on and do that.
And
Perfect.
and
Yeah.
and do you think that you'll jump back into coaching in the future, or is it now always going to be a combination of coaching and podcasting?
It's hard to say. I don't think I have fully jumped out of it. It's just that I don't do it as like, oh, I'm a coach and I'm gonna coach you. But I had one of my podcasting clients when I was telling her like, oh, I'm thinking maybe to completely like stop like coaching services. She was like, you've been coaching me this whole time, right? And I'm like, huh. It's kind of like a natural thing that I have, I think. And I have always been that person who is like striving and pursuing, but at the same time, I'm always like checking in with others and being there for others. So I don't think it will ever leave me as a thing that I do, but as a way of making living, I do see that there's plenty of opportunities for me down the line to like mentor more people or do some group coaching or create communities or things like that. I'm kind of open to how life will unravel it for me
Yeah,
as I go along, but I don't think it's something that the door is closed and it's never going to be open. It doesn't even feel like the door is closed. I'm just not doing it as like that's my full-time gig.
got it.
What I was thinking when you were talking about that is you kind of got into your motivation, and I was curious about what your next steps might be and what's motivating you to do that.
Hmm. Next steps. Right now, a lot of it is deep dive into podcasting space and focusing on my podcast. There's huge potential that I see in both of them, and there's huge learning curve, but also huge impact that I can see even with the Chase the Impossible. Big one that I feel very
Right.
drawn to is talking to my generation, supporting my generation in things that they're going through or things that I have learned that I can give back. Because there's even me 5 years ago, I wouldn't believe that I'm the person that I am. Or there was somebody that asked me, what is the thing that I'm the most proud of? And I was like, that the person I am today, because I didn't think that I could be this way. And there's so many challenges that I see my generation face and go through, which a lot of times it's just the fault of environment.
And
It's not even their doing.
and is it your generation where you're more vocal and more aware, whereas let's say baby boomers like myself and David, we accepted the journey far more. We didn't inquire about the journey and the growth and all the rest of it. We just accepted it and moved on and landed where we landed. Whereas
Yeah.
your generation is really analytical.
Yeah, we're at the
Um,
other extreme of the pendulum because we are hyper aware. We
yeah,
don't really live in the moment. We just overthink the moment, and we compare
Okay.
ourselves with everybody else online. And
yeah.
and so there's a lot of I see a lot of awareness, a lot of kind of over consuming of content, learning, resources, but there's lack of doing. There's lack of like resilience, and I think we also are very disconnected. I feel like the places or ways how we try to connect are not the healthiest or the best, and a lot of times we're not aware that that's the case or that's the missing piece is actual like connection.
Mm.
So there's many things or patterns that I see both from my life, but also from people that I would talk to, where it does feel like we went to the other end of the pendulum swing.
And what would you say your biggest learning or your biggest benefit has been from doing your business, whether or not it's coaching or podcasting?
Um, I don't know if that's the biggest. It's hard to put like point out like one of the biggest, but I think in general it's just like how much you can handle, how much you can endure, how much there was this one entrepreneur who said that if you want to have the best self-development tool, start a business because you'll be stretched, you'll be challenged, there will be things that will go wrong, and a
Hmm.
lot of it is for me has been to learn about my capabilities and kind of going through that growth where some of the problems that would happen a couple of years ago, now it's like, it's nothing. Like it's
Yeah.
it doesn't even phase me. So it's just learning the depth of resilience and growth that you can go through, and also how capable you are, how resourceful you can be if needed. And I think another great one is the relationships that I have built. Because before I started business, I didn't really have like real social circle, or I wasn't too social in general. I was pretty introverted just to myself, and now I have had hundreds of one-on-one conversations with people, um, and the recordings as well with the guests that I have on, and I have talked to people that I at some point would feel like why are they talking like I don't understand why they agreed to have a conversation with me, and it's something that I find very interesting because I there was a time that I would believe there are two things about myself: I'm boring and I'm bad with people, and I have
I can't believe that.
exactly. And but I had a strong belief in that, and it's been very interesting to kind of go through the whole journey of I never thought I could be that good with like connecting with people, or I maybe not that I thought I couldn't be. I think I already had that skill. I just didn't see that. I didn't give myself a chance to actually see how good I could be with that. So there's been a lot of also learnings about myself, or kind of becoming more aware of some of the skill sets that I have, some of the strengths, but also some of the weaknesses and things that I need to work on.
Yeah. Yeah.
So do you feel some of this experience has actually sharpened you as a coach or as a
Oh
mentor or
yeah.
as a friend?
Yeah. Like definitely, because I the more I go through, the better I can help others to go through what they're going
Right.
through. That's probably the main thing for me because a lot of what I do, it does come from lived experience, and I kind of also intentionally look for those experiences. That's why I do like winter swims and the half Ironmans, or like I did marathon last year, and a lot of those things are me putting myself in situations where I have to be uncomfortable. I have to handle myself. I have to deal with the discomfort, or even like I like a bit over a month ago, I started to go to Pilates, where I was like, oh, I don't know, I don't think I'm good at it, and all I would have all these thoughts and then before the class I have to go to the teacher to tell her to speak in English, and I'm like, oh my gosh, now she's gonna see me, and if I make any mistakes, like I just go through the whole thing, and but that's the beauty of it is I put myself in those situations and I learn through them. And then when I talk to somebody, I can resonate with what they're going through because I have been there and I continue putting
Yeah.
myself in those
Yeah.
situations. So I would say the biggest thing definitely has been that I have way more lived experience that I can add to people that I would work with.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Good.
like that growth through experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, obviously, you've now met lots of people, entrepreneurs, coaches. You've gained that wealth of exposure to people, and as you said, people that you wouldn't ordinarily have spoken to or had a conversation with. I mean, you're originally from Latvia. Um, you've lived in the UK, and now you're living in Estonia. You've met all these people from around the world. Do you feel that the pull to go traveling and see these people, face to face, or do you have a particular yen to go and live in another location, or is Estonia now home?
It feels like home, but I don't know for how long. Because in general, it wasn't the plan to come here. I initially wanted to go to Canada, but that fell through. And I had my best friend. She kept asking me to come visit her, and I was like, well, I don't have a reason not to come, so okay, I'm just gonna come and visit. And during that weekend, I was like, oh, I kind of like it here. And she was telling me, oh, if you move here, we could do this and that. And I would say, like, slow down. I'm just like considering. But then literally after that weekend, the next day she said me, "Oh, if you want to move, my friend is looking for somebody to rent an apartment." And I was like, "Okay, I might as well." So there was no plan, there was no strategy, just felt aligned. So a lot of and it did, like right before that I read the book Surrender Experiment. So that also helped me a lot kind of to slowly look for that balance of surrendering instead of trying to control things too much, because a lot of times we think we know what's the best for us, but it's not always the case, or we know what's our path. Like I thought it's psychology, that's my thing, and even though everything underlying what I do and what I'm about is around that and growth development and all those things, but I never saw it that I could provide podcasting services to others. It wasn't something that I would plan, it kind of just happened. So I approach it with the sense of like I think last year or a bit earlier, I started to have this feeling that it feels like Estonia might start to feel a bit small, but I don't know what's next yet. It hasn't come to me yet, and there's still things that are kind of or different ways how I'm still being challenged and fulfilled while being here. So for the most part, it's a yes and no. It is a home now. I don't know for how long and what's next because I'm trusting life to bring that to me.
And and
Right,
and
right.
we've got a friend in common, which is Lisa Reisner. I mean, she's originally from Germany. She spent 4.5 years in Denmark. She's now in Sweden, and she's got an agenda to move to Ibiza. Um, does that appeal at all?
I just know that whatever will come to me will come to me
Okay.
because it's something that it's one of the things that I have been learning is to kind of trust that inner knowing and trust that when the time is right, the right thing will appear. And for me, as somebody who would always look for like certainty and all those things, initially it was kind of uncomfortable. But now I'm in a place where I just trust it. Where even last year I started to think about Australia. Like that's one of the things that I was considering.
Yeah.
And I felt pretty strong about it. But now I'm like, okay, I still want to see. Like I'm 50-50 at this point.
Right.
So I want to see how things are gonna plan out. And I also trust the kind of in a weird way the signs that come to me. Whatever aligns, like that will actually resonate because we keep getting signs all the time, anyways. But whatever aligns, that's what actually I'm gonna pay attention to.
And
Um,
and and they're just thoughts at the end of the day that come and go.
but it's been interesting because with Australia, I would have at least five people mention it to me. And I have never even thought about traveling there. It just came out of nowhere. There were several situations where out of nowhere, it's just like Australia, Australia, Australia. Like
Yeah.
it just kept happening. So that's where, for the most part, I would say I'm not really attached to anything that I think is the best for me, because I know a lot about myself, but there's so many things that I'm learning about myself that like I thought I don't want to be in front of camera, and now I'm doing two podcasts and helping others with their shows. So
Yeah. Yeah.
a lot of times
You
I
never know,
can
right?
exactly, and you can be wrong about yourself. The same thing I had with the marathon. Like for me, that was the impossible. I would when I was in UK, I was in personal trainer courses, and I was making one guy a program for Ironman. And I remember thinking it would be nice if I could do it, but I can't run. I just can't run long distances. So I didn't even consider it for like 7 years because of how strong that belief was.
Yeah.
And that's when I started to challenge that impossible and start to chase it. And now I'm like marathon finisher, finishing the original marathon distance as my first marathon, which is very challenging distance.
Yeah.
Job.
Thank you.
So Howard, what else should we talk about?
Well, I have one question, and I suppose it's more of an intrigue than anything else. I mean, you mentioned that originally you did um, a performance coach. You did um, at university. You did sports psychology. Um, it's as a performance coach, as it's quite a narrow band when you look at all of the different sort of genres within coaching. I can't help thinking that with all the guests that you've had and the exposure that you've had on the podcasts, do you think you will broaden this out over time and look at other areas, or will you stay very much in that, performance space?
Oh, I like that question. Yeah.
It's hard to say when I'm the coach, because I love to learn about a lot of things, but then when it comes to delivering value to people and helping them grow and get better, that's where I have to kind of introspect and see what am I actually like helping them with, where am I actually the most useful for them. Because a lot of, even with the coaching that I would do, most of my clients, they don't just get better with like their mindset, they start to become healthier, their relationships improve. So it already is like the work that I would do, it already was quite kind of comprehensive. We touched on a lot of topics, but a lot of it, the way I would see it looking back, is that it was just reflection of things that I have been working on myself. So as long as I work on myself in those areas, it will come across. It will come up in the conversation, or they might notice that in myself and they might ask me a question about it. Or because if I wouldn't be like good in this one area, let's say if I wouldn't take care of my health, they wouldn't ask me anything about health
Yeah,
or
yeah,
fitness. So I think a lot of what I can or could help with becomes like a reflection of what are the things that I have been working on. And there's a lot of things that I can help with, but I don't necessarily think that it's always the best case that I'm the solution for them. So I'm somebody who loves to research, who loves to like I have all kind of resources like or anybody asks me, "Oh, what should I read? What should I watch?"
yeah,
I'm like, "What's the topic you want to learn about?" And I will be the person who can send them in the right direction. So
yeah,
I might not always be the right solution. That's where I need to be aware of like what can I actually help with the best.
yeah,
But I would see myself at some point stepping into even something like business related, or even like I'm already doing it to some extent with podcasting. And because most of the things they overlap, and when it comes to mindset, like in psychology, everything is like
it's
there's a
connected.
lot of, exactly.
Right,
So
right.
so I would say I see it expanding, but I'm also not too, I wouldn't say I'm too fixed on like only high performance. But I have never been that way.
Yeah. I mean, I had a conversation with somebody this morning. He's a Polish coach in Germany, and he spent quite a long time. He's very successful. He works with entrepreneurs, um, people that feel burnt out, and almost from the point of view, and we had this discussion about, they spend all their time climbing up a ladder, And then when they get towards the top of the ladder, all the things that they were looking for suddenly aren't at the top of the ladder. And
Yep.
and therefore, do they need to get onto another ladder to find those very things that they were looking for? And the problem with that is that the gap as you climb those two ladders, one's against one wall, one's against the other, and the gap across is very hard to jump across onto a new ladder. But they're looking for, yes, they're looking for wealth, they're looking for peace, they're looking for, that tranquility, they're looking for achievement, um, and they're looking for all these other things that just aren't at the top of the ladder that they're climbing. So he's looking to shift what he's doing and go more into the longer term life coaching to help people, find and shift and transform on an ongoing basis because he's been treating people at the top of the ladder for so long. It's typically quite short coaching. So it might be 3, 4 months, and then they sort of thank you very much and off they go. Whereas he actually wants to work with people over a much longer period of time. And I'm talking years, with some people. Um,
Yeah, and
there's,
it's that example is it's a good example of kind of even like when it comes to coaching, what people think they're going into and what is it that they actually need or they see that they need once they are in it and once we start working together. Because it's some, and I think it's a lot of it is in general, a lot of times we think that, oh, this is what I need help with. But then once you actually start to dig into it, you start to see that, oh, that's not it at all. There's something
I fully agree with
completely
that.
different.
Happens all the time. Yeah. So I think, Oscar, your experience is basically a culmination, let's not use ladders anymore, of your experience either growing up and where you are today, and maybe what you think is needed going forward. So how's that impacting your coaching or where do you see it yourself? Austria 2.2, 2.0, 2.2.
Um, like what would my next
We could talk
evolution
about
look like?
Canada and Australia if you want, but at the end of the day,
Uh, I don't think I'm over fixated on the location of it. Location can help in some capacity. For me, it's less about. There was a time that I would think about the how do I explain it? I think it's internal. I measure kind of my growth and my development based on the internal. So there was a time that I would be like insecure about stuff, and now I'm not insecure about that stuff anymore. That's
mhm.
growth. But I can identify some other places where, oh, I think there's a limit, or I think there's a glass ceiling. So I think a lot of it is I feel like we get over fixated on the setting the goals or being kind of a bit too rigid with them instead of finding that balance between yes, we want to have goals, we want to have vision, but also being open that the work really happens like right now, right in front of us.
Hmm.
And a lot of times, what we need to do is just identify what is it that I need to work on, what is it that I see as like one of my limitations or one of the things that I don't really like the way I feel about like being in this situation or this scenario or just like being this way. How can I address that? So a lot of it, like for me, I don't see any finish line of where I want to be. There is none other than me not being here anymore. And what I do is I focus more on what's the next thing for me to address because I also don't know, and it's partly coming from my experiences that once I address this one thing, I think that I know what will happen, but actually have never opened that door. I have never seen that possibility. I have never been that person.
I'm thinking
So
about your journey. I think that's what you're describing, right?
yeah, and that's where even like with career wise, right now focus is the podcasting. But even with podcasting, I'm having a lot of conversations with podcasters even to understand what they need. Because I can think that, oh, I know what I can offer, but then when I have conversations, do even people need that? Is that something that is missing? So that's where I think for me it's hard to give like really like specific answer because a lot of it is our it's still evolving, it's still kind of growing. And even now, like with one of my clients, I'm stepping more into creative director role. it's a new thing for me. So there's a huge learning curve just going through that, and I don't
Right.
know what will come from that. So a lot, it's kind of very interesting to be in that place because I'm very goal driven and really specific, but at the same time, I have no idea what's coming because of all these like things that are happening, and I'm just trying to find that balance between like having the goals, but also being open to those opportunities and growth. The main goal for me that I always focus on is, am I getting better? Am I growing? And am I becoming more valuable to help others? That's really like at the end of the day the main thing that I focus on, and everything else kind of falls from there.
Well, if we can use the words coaching, what I'm hearing is that everything that comes across to you, everything new you learn, let's put it that way, becomes a new quiver, excuse me, new arrow in your quiver, so to speak, that you can use in the future, right? I mean,
Yep.
that's
Um,
what I'm hearing.
yeah, a lot of the things that I do, that I always kind of filter them through, is it going to help me to get better or help others get better? Like that's the majority of like the decisions that I make. Is this going to help me or is it going to help me help others kind of thing?
Right.
And it is something that is, I don't know, it's been there for a long time. Like most of the things that I do, I feel like I have to have some purpose to them, and that's partly why for me it's been interesting to go through the journey of learning to rest and do things without purpose or without specific goal, because it is new
Right.
concept to me, and it's been also interesting to go through that and kind of learn more about myself, where I'm just like, just relax, there's no goal within this activity. Just have
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do the same thing. It's like, David, just shut up and sit down.
And
And
in all,
sometimes that's the best medicine.
Yeah.
yeah. And in all the podcasts that you've been doing, do you see a trend or new trends emerging? I mean, can you sort of see what the future holds on the coaching side with all the coaches that you've sort of interviewed and questioned?
I think one of the things is that I can talk quite a bit on the healing space, because I have several clients in that space that, I think people are starting to crave connection more. It's less so, oh, I want to get this course, I want to go through that course. I feel like people are starting to feel lonely in their growth journeys because they're like, oh, I need to do everything myself. And I feel like people are starting to wake up to the fact that, why am I doing it by myself? Why am I trying to kind of, figure everything out by myself, even if it's through courses and things like that? I think connection is something that probably is coming back, that need or that craving for actually like really connecting. This
Community.
is, yeah, exactly. I think this is universal throughout forever, but safe space. I think so many people don't have the safe space. So anybody who has the skill set or ability to create safe space for the other person to open up,
Yeah.
share, be vulnerable,
Yeah.
that's huge, because so many
Right.
people, they just don't have that. They have never had the feeling that I can just be myself, I can open up, I can share, and I will not be judged or
Yeah.
ridiculed.
Yeah.
So that's definitely a big one, but I think it's irrelevant of what time we are in. It's just something that sadly not many of us have, or maybe we need to create a way to build skill set to create safe space for each other.
Yeah.
But and I think in general, it's tough because a lot of people, they would go through a coaching experience with somebody who's not that good at coaching and they get burnt, so they don't really kind of trust to do it again. Or that's one of the saddest things that I would see when I was doing a lot of networking, is that I would talk to people that I feel like they need to get a coach first, or they need to start living what they're teaching before they
Mhm.
go and teach others how to live their lives. So I think it's now flipping a bit, where initially there was this trend of anybody can be a coach, you can build a business out of like coaching, and you can become like rich and all that. Where now I think it's becoming a bit more mindful of, like, what is it that you can help with, and also being good at something doesn't mean you're that good at teaching it to somebody or coaching somebody or mentoring somebody.
Yeah.
There's a distinction. So I think it's just becoming a bit more mindful, and it's less of,
And
Yeah, I
yeah.
like that mindful.
yeah. And
Yeah.
Exactly.
I find this, even in my past career, it was always a situation where For argument's sake, you might have a really good salesman, but it didn't mean he was going to be a good sales manager or a good sales director.
Yes.
It's one skill doesn't necessarily, move up the ratio. I mean, how do you feel what you're doing and what you've been doing has affected your being? And as coaches, we put a lot of emphasis on being, how we're turning up, who we are, how we present ourselves, you know, how we connect with people. How have you found that has changed your being?
It's been a journey because I remember that at the beginning it was tough because I felt like I have to be perfect so that I can like be a leader and like teach people stuff. So initially it was like very big kind of unnecessary pressure on myself of like, oh, I need to be this way, or oh, I can't be this way, or like, oh, I made this like one thing that is not aligned with whatever I'm teaching, like all kind of, oh, I'm being human, I can't be human kind of thing. But I think over the years, what I have done more of is just embracing my humanness and being,
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah, and being more vulnerable, being more open. That like I'm on the journey just like everybody else, and it was very interesting. I asked one of my coaching clients feedback, and she said that she really liked that when we do the work together, I also share some of my stuff or some of the stories from my experiences that are kind of relevant to what she's going through. And I was asking her, does because she said like it feels like I'm talking to somebody who is like equal, where you're not talking down on me, you're not telling me like how to live my life. And I was asking her if that's getting in her way of seeing me as like authority within kind of what I'm doing, and she was like, no, not at all. And I was like, huh, interesting, because I would assume that like, oh, I need to like show that I'm like, like got it together kind of thing. But I would tell her like, I'm still working through this, I'm still working through that, or these are the things that
Yeah,
I have worked me with this. I'm still working on it, but that's kind of like I'm now like 5 steps into it,
yeah,
and this is kind of what I see or what I know that like that probably gonna help you. So I think a lot of it has been definitely embracing more of my humanness and being just like, yeah, I'm still figuring it out. I don't have all the answers, but I have people that I can send people to, or I can ask myself. And it's just like through work with others. I think a lot of it also is just that awareness of the need of having people out there that genuinely want to help, they genuinely care to help people, give them that safe space, and because so many people need that. It's kind of sad to see how many people need that. But also it's been a privilege to be that person to others, where they would share something to me that they have been holding on for decades,
yeah,
and they
yeah.
never felt like they can let it out. But it's been a lot of big learning curve on my end as well. Just embracing and stepping into that. Yeah, I'm just a human like everybody else.
Yeah, yeah,
I like that level of authenticity.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think that probably is the word that sums it up. Uh, what I'm thinking, as far as I call them students, you can call them clients if you want. At the end of the day, you can, they feel treasured. They love the course that you're coaching as long as you're human. And of course, the big thing is they feel seen and they feel heard, where maybe they don't get that experience anyplace else.
But also they connect
Um,
with you if you show you're human, because it's very
exactly.
hard to connect with somebody who shows up being perfect. It's like I can't relate to you. I know
yeah.
I'm not perfect,
Well,
but you show
then you're
up as
just
this
preaching.
exactly. And that's
Exactly.
that's one of the biggest things that or like the realization that I had is that we don't connect with the perfect sides of each other. We connect with the human sides, with the messy sides, because that's what we can
Bingo.
relate on.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
It's funny how
And,
that works, right?
Yeah.
and have you found, for yourself, has it changed your character because you've put yourself in that, as you said earlier, uncomfortable situations? You're now in a situation where, you're speaking to entrepreneurs, you're speaking to very experienced coaches. How has that changed your being yourself?
I think one of it is I'm not really trying to hide myself, or I'm not really trying to kind of hold some parts of my back. Like even when I would do the conversations with some people about like fitness and things like that, I would share about like, oh, I had like binge eating. I would work through that, and I would have so much shame that I would never even tell. I didn't even want to like address it or admit it that I would struggle with that. But then one of my clients had the expert on to talk about it, and I was like, oh my gosh, she would describe all the patterns, and I'm like, that's literally like she's describing me. And a lot of it has been just getting more comfortable with that. Good example is podcasting. So when I started to do a podcast, I would focus just on the guest. I don't really add anything from myself because I was like, I'm just here to ask questions. You're the expert. Like I have nothing to add. But a lot of it was just the shame of being judged or being seen, like the real me, the authentic, not so perfect me. Where now a lot of it is like in the conversations, I will bring in examples from my life of something that I have worked through or gone through. But I think a lot of it does come from that self work where you start to accept yourself, you start to love yourself, and that's where it kind of naturally shifts. Where it's initially we look for acceptance from others to accept ourselves. That's kind of like one of my friends described it so well. He said that I was in a place where I was trying to help myself by helping others. That's kind of what I was trying to do. But
Yeah.
then the help really had to come from myself. I had to go within and I had to do the work that I had to do, where you get to the point where now it's kind of natural to help. It's not something that, oh, I need to help them so that they
Right.
thank me and then I feel good about myself kind of thing. And then you can't say no because otherwise if you say no, then like who am I? I don't have any worth anymore kind of thing. So a lot of it has been just like the more work you do on yourself, the more comfortable you feel with yourself, the less you are maybe worried or affected of what will be the reaction of others because you end up like really liking yourself and spending time with yourself
Yeah.
and you just own it.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. Excellent. I'm conscious of time. Austra, it's been a pleasure. And I think I can speak for David here. I think we would love to get you back on at a later date.
Yeah, sure.
But again, thank you. Thank you for today.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you
have
for
so many
having
more questions, so
Yeah, absolutely.
get ready. And you should ask us questions too.
I'll keep that in
Anyway,
mind for the next conversation.
Absolutely.
oh yeah, okay. Looking forward to that.
Austra, thank you very much. And we look forward to speaking again soon. Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye.